Yesterday, a Senate committee in South Carolina voted to expand the state's Stand Your Ground law to fetuses. Not a joke, not The Onion. In fact, the way it's worded, it actually goes further. They want to extend the Stand Your Ground law to embryos. Also to zygotes, also to gametes, just the second you're done having sex. Whatever it is, at that second moment that the guy busts his nut and he's like, boom, third person in the room, boom, Stand Your Ground applies to it. And I say it because I do mean it. Because at the time, it's a pile of goo. But they want to expand it that far. I mean, the only way you could hit more of the Republican hot topics in one law is if you called it the Stand Your Ground for Fetuses while reciting school prayer law. Then you really hit every single Republican hot topic. Now, how is that even possible? How are you going to expand Stand Your Ground to fetuses? They can't fight. They don't have guns. Well, they explain what they mean, and they say a woman can use deadly force to defend herself if her or her fetus is in imminent danger. To which I say, that is already law. It's called self-defense. So why are they doing this? I mean, what's their purpose in doing this? Well, the reality is actually quite nefarious. They're doing it because it's a backdoor way to take the first step towards fetal personhood. See, if they expand Stand Your Ground to fetuses, then they can say that, well, we already have one law that's meant for adults and meant for people that applies to embryos and zygotes and fetuses, so why would we stop there? Why not go a little further and say that maybe manslaughter can apply to fetuses, or murder could apply to fetuses. Therefore, there is no more abortion. Abortion is defined as murder. Therefore, if you get an abortion, you go to jail. Now, you think I'm kidding about this. You think this is hyperbole, but I'm telling you, that's the end goal, and we've seen this in some states. There were stories coming out of some red states about how, a woman had a miscarriage and she was put in jail. What the fuck, man? And this is the type of hysteria that we talk about with the so-called pro-life community. In reality, it's just the pro-insane people community. And these tricks, it's amazing the tricks that the right uses at the state level when we talk about reproductive issues. Another one that we talk about all the time is the so-called trap laws. You know what those are? That's a really, really interesting thing. So they're actually called trap laws, targeted restriction of abortion procedure laws. And what they do is, in red states, they'll go into the few abortion clinics that are left, and they'll take out a tape measure. They'll measure the length of the hallways or the length of the ceilings. And they'll say, oh, would you look at that? That's a shame. Your ceilings are only 12.5 feet tall. Well, we're about to pass a regulation that says it needs to be 13 feet tall. So either you get all these ceilings redone, and by the way, you have a month to do it, or we're going to have to shut you down. So they purposefully over-regulate and do burdensome regulations that they can't possibly meet and they don't have the funds to meet in order to shut down the abortion clinics. And this is what they have to do because, of course, with Roe v. Wade, happening and the abortion laws at the federal level being what they are, they know that they can't just come out and say in plain language, our state bans abortion, because that's unconstitutional. So they have to find these backdoor ways to go around it and say, oh, well, we didn't ban it, but we did say that your ceilings need to be X amount high and yours aren't that high. We did say that your doorways aren't wide enough. We did say, another one that they do is they say you have to get permits from a nearby hospital. You have to have emergency room admittance in order to be an abortion clinic. And then what happens? They tell them to get the permit from a Catholic hospital. And the hospital's like, of course we're not going to give it to you. We're against abortion. So it's another way of shutting it down. Oh, you couldn't get the permits? Sorry, we're going to have to shut you down. It's amazing what they do. It's an all-out assault on reproductive rights.